Welcome to the Tampa Bay IIBA chapter. This is our BA Masterclass for March 26, 2026. Today we have the pleasure of having Ugochi come talk to us about sustainability through the BA lens. Let me give introductions. My name is Thea Soren. I'm the president of this chapter. I helped write the body of knowledge. I helped do a lot of stuff, but really what it comes down to is as president, it's my job to help you. If you have something you need, if you have a question, if you have a concern, reach out to me. LinkedIn is the easiest way to reach me, and I'll be glad to help you. For those of you who don't know, the IIBA, the International Institute of Business Analysis, this is the governing body for business analysis as our profession. We have over 30,000 members, over
Thea,
120. Yes.
your
Am I not
screen.
sharing? Let me share my screen. That's what I get for having to leave and come back. So sorry, guys. Let's do this one. Here we go. We have over 120 chapters worldwide, and seven internationally recognized certifications. We are committed to making the world one better, one project, and one certification, and one life at a time. The IIBA serves as a global standard-setting organization for business analysis. Because of this leadership, the most respected and widely recognized certifications in our profession come from the IIBA, grounded in the internationally adopted Babok Guide. What are the benefits of joining the IIBA? You get access to training provided by those 120 chapters around the globe. You get complimentary access to over 25,000 books and webinars and videos, including the Babok. You get discounts on certification exams that exceed the amount of membership. In fact, we recently put a recording on our YouTube channel explaining this more in depth. You're welcome to review it. We have everything on YouTube free to everybody. IIBA chapters are in major cities around the world. If there is not an active chapter near you, we can talk about you starting a chapter, or you're welcome to the Tampa Bay IIBA. Members of the Tampa Bay, Florida chapter are not restricted to residents of Florida. In fact, we have participants from literally all around the globe. If you do not have an IIBA chapter, Tampa Bay can be your chapter. Our vision here at the Tampa Bay IIBA is building a thriving community of empowered business analysts. So why would you choose to join the Tampa Bay chapter? We offer multiple training sessions each week, including CBAT prep, coaching, and an acclaimed SDLC workshop, among other things. You can view our upcoming events at our website, and the updates are posted across LinkedIn and Facebook. At the end of 2025, we had over 200 events, and we had all of them on YouTube. These events are available on YouTube, but we will tell you that Bob's Amazing Index at rpchurchill.com is the way to identify what event you want to pick up, and he has links directly to it. Makes it easy. Thanks, Bob. So this is our esteemed board, and I'm so very proud of the efforts of each one. I'm also proud to announce that Amal Durrani has joined our board as a board member at large. He'll be working with our Vice President of Technology, Kasi, to improve our Tampa Bay IIBA YouTube channel. Thank you, guys. As a result of putting on all these trainings over the last several years, we received this award. This is the one award that they give to one chapter for the whole year. This is the Professional Development Award. We're very proud of the work that went into earning this. Another thing that went into earning this is all these folks have taken some kind of training from us and reached out to us and said, if it weren't for what you did at your chapter, we would not have been able to earn these awards, these certifications. One of the study groups that we're currently running is the CBAT test prep course. We've got a domestic course that's Thursday nights right after this meeting. And then we have an international group that meets on Saturday mornings. Well, it's Saturday mornings for me, Saturday afternoon or evening for the rest of the world. I want to take a moment to appreciate all of our partners. Our number one partner group, though, is you, the IIBA members and participants who work with our chapter. We're partnered with over a dozen other IIBA chapters worldwide. We're mentoring 3 chapters that are just forming, and I haven't added it yet, but there's a 4th chapter that is in Ghana that is getting ready to start, and we're going to be mentoring them. I'm very excited about that. We partnered with the Doback Group based in the UK and these organizations in Tampa Bay area. We've successfully partnered with recruiting companies and services and training companies. Our goal is always to elevate our BA community. We've partnered with the Purdue University's program. This is their virtual AI master's program for students at Purdue University. Through this partnership, the students get more than academic learning. They're hosting a virtual speaker series, and all of this is actually coordinated by one of our board members, Esther. And I want to give a shout out to her because it's a lot of work to coordinate all these people. One of the other things that we're doing is have a speaker series. About half the people here, that this is the February and March sessions, are provided by the Tampa Bay organization to give real world experience to the Purdue students. Thank you, Esther, for helping this be good. Benefits of our partnerships include discounts at special events to you, our participants. Watermark Learning offers you a 40% discount using this code. That means you can get unlimited access to the 1,200 CBAP practice test questions with a 40% discount. Watermark tools are what I use for my CBAP training classes, and many of my students have expressed how effective these are. Adaptive US, they specialize only in business analysis. They have over 90 free items on their website. They offer our participants a 20% discount on all live courses and on-demand courses, excluding the IIBA exam vouchers. They have a guarantee that says if you take their course and you take the test and you don't pass, they will pay the fee for you to take it a second time and a third time if necessary, but that's all you get. It's pretty good warranty on their work. Let's look into the future. Next week, April 2nd, Laura is going to show us how to move beyond reacting to requests and start operating as a proactive, value-driven business analyst. Whether you're early in your BA career or looking to increase your strategic influence, you will learn practical ways to anticipate needs, ask better questions, and lead change with confidence. The following week on April 9th, I'm not saying his name right, will be coming to talk to us. He's going to be showing his journey from his BCS diploma and his hands-on experience in the UK public sector to talk about what strategic analysis looks like in practice. He's going to walk us through essential strategic analysis framework and gain a clear understanding of the 5-case model, the foundation of the UK government business case development. On April 16th, Tabo is going to show us how to transform the way analysts work with data. He's going to show us how Copilot in Power BI streamlines analysis reporting through natural language, making insights faster to uncover and dramatically reducing manual effort. We're going to move from raw data to meaningful dashboards with greater speed, clarity, and efficiency. That Saturday on April 9th, we are working with David Verbanik. He's going to be giving a class on, I've got it covered up here. He's going to be giving a class on making the business case, talking about how to understand business cases and how to write business cases. As BAs, we very often have to write business cases, and we always have to read business cases. So going through this workshop would be very, very valuable to any business analyst who does not have a firm grasp on exactly the elements of the business case. On April 23rd, BA Life is going to have their virtual conference in the UK. It is earlier than most of us want to get up, but if you can participate in this, you're going to get a lot of speakers. And then it's 30 speakers, and then you get 12 months of access to their recordings. On April 23rd, Renat is coming back to talk to us about designing AI-augmented enterprise workflows. I'm looking forward to that. We're going to walk through essential strategic analysis frameworks, and you're going to love that one. On April 27th through 29th, if you're in the Florida area, you can join these two wonderful guys in Orlando at the Project Summit Business Analyst World. and they have a lot of different presenters there. It's a really good time to find your tribe with other geeks. On April 30th, Esther is going to be showing us the BA Strategy Lab. It's called Games, Grit, and Great Decisions. It's something that you need to participate in. And this one I'm excited about. On May 7th, I'm going to show you how to use Copilot M365 to make your own CBAP test bank or anything else you want. But we're just going to walk through how I did it with using I put the Babok in there and told it what I wanted to do, and we did some refinements, and it is just as good as Watermark, if not better. On May 28th, the European BA Day is coming. It's another virtual conference out of Europe. Good stuff, guys. And then, if you want to get more information or to register for any of these, you can go to our
Yes.
website, tampabayiba.org. We have everything posted on LinkedIn. Thank you, Cliff. And then we put everything on YouTube for you to be able to review later. And again, finding where things are is rpchurchill.com. That helps you find where things are on YouTube. Now I'm going to turn it over to Ugochi. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Okay, it's morning here. So good morning. So give me a minute to share my screen. Please confirm you can see my screen.
We can't see it yet.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining in tonight. I first came in contact with Tampa Bay chapter last year. Yeah. And it's been an amazing journey so far. And I'm glad to be here again, now as a speaker. So I'll dive right in because of our time. So welcome, welcome, welcome for
We
joining
don't see
from.
your screen.
Let me present it for you.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Let's do it this way. How about that?
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right, so tonight we'll be discussing sustainability through the BA lens. I'll say through the eyes, through the eyes of a BA. You know, as a BA, we have our perspective, the way we address, address situations, the way we will I use the word help organizations achieve their business goals and all. So this morning I'll be showing us how we as BAs can use the skills we already have, or how we can champion sustainability in our organization without necessarily having to become a what we call sustainability expert. Right. So you can move to the next slide, please.
Sorry, this goes faster than I thought. Okay, now I know how to do it.
Okay. So before we start, I just want to make some things clear. Right. So you might have heard of the word sustainability. I'm definitely going to explain that in details as we move along. But I just wanted to, make it clear that if you have heard about sustainability before, which am assuming you must have heard, it is not just about the environment or becoming an environmental expert. It is about making responsible decisions that create long-term value. I like to describe it as that. Right? So for most people, you might have heard the word maybe climate, carbon or sustainability reports, ESG reports. When you are looking at it from that angle of this is something that is different from the work I do as a BA, it begins to feel that is let me use the word, it's none of my business. Right? Since it's not part of what I'm doing right now, it's none of my business. For a BA, right, on a BA, it means designing solutions in your organization, that put into considerations the balance between the immediate needs with how these decisions will impact the future, of how this will impact the future, maybe in the aspect of reducing waste and also to support organizational resilience. Now, like I said earlier, you do not need to be a sustainability expert. You just need to understand the concept of sustainability to the extent that it can help you ask the right questions as a business analyst on a team. Identify hidden costs from things like maybe energy usage, water usage, or any form of material topic as it relates to your organization the or I say the project you're working on, right? And to be able to help stakeholders understand how every or any decision they are making affects the business performance and the impact beyond the organization, how it affects people, how it affects the workers, and how it also affects the environment. You can move along. All right. I won't dwell so much on this. You know me. My name is Ugochi Ekoh, and I'm a business analyst and founder of Sustainable Edge Consulting. And I'm here. Right. So you can move to the next slide. Thank you.
Ugachi, let me ask you to turn off your camera because that may help the audio. It's skipping a lot.
Oh, okay. All right, so by the end of this session, you will understand what sustainability means in the simplest form, right? I'll briefly talk about key frameworks in the sustainability space. In sustainability space, we have a lot of frameworks. We have a lot of things happening, but we're not here to be sustainability expert, right? But you will understand some of the key frameworks in place and also recognize how your BA skills, your current BA skills are already sustainability tools. We're not trying to do something outside our field, right? We're using the skills we already have. We're using the skills we already have as BAs to champion sustainability, to make our organizations more sustainable, to make our organizations or our leaders in our organization make better decisions, right? And you will walk away with at least one action for your next project, right? So let's move to the next slide. So now the big question, what is sustainability? If you if you probably check online, right? Most of the definitions you see, what we call the traditional definition, they will say sustainability is, meeting today's needs without taking away the ability of future generations to meet that. But as a BA, that sounds very vague. But like, what has today's needs generations, So I'll give you another definition that you probably or definitely understand as a business analyst or someone in the business world. When we say sustainability is, making decisions that create value for the business while responsibly managing their impact on customers, operations, and the environment. You see that this is like all encompassing. We're not just focusing on one thing, right? As a BA, you understand the fact that your decisions, how you're able to lead a team when you're on a project, has like a ripple effect, right? It's affecting the customers, it's affecting the supply chain, it's affecting the management of the organization. So that's what we're going to be talking about today in a nutshell. We can move to the next slide. Now, like I've said earlier, sustainability is not just about the environment, because a lot of persons have this misconception that when you hear the word sustainability, we're talking about, okay, growing trees, right? That's the very first thing that comes to people's mind. We're talking about the environment and all. It's beyond that. It also covers how people are being treated in an organization and how organizations are being run, right? Sustainability like a long-term lens, because every organization's decision affect what I call the capacity for the future, or let me use the term borrow from it. No, you're either adding to something, making something better, or taking away from it and depleting it. Right. So sustainability asks a question. Are we building the future? Are we making the future more sustainable so that in the future, when my next generation, 2 generations ahead, will they still have access to the things that we have and even better, right? And it does not just stop at sustainability commitment strategy at the management level. It happens in rooms where requirements are written. I like to put it like that, and that is where we as BAs we shine. Where processes are being mapped, where decisions are being made, that's where sustainability happens. And tonight we are going to see how, as BAs, we can make that happen. We can embed sustainability into the little decisions in our organizations and on our projects. You can move to the next slide. So now, like I said earlier, let me use what under the umbrella of sustainability, there are a lot of things happening, right? There are a lot of things happening, but I'll just give us a quick rundown of a few of them because we're not here to, sustainability is very wide. We cannot, definitely cover all of them in a day, but I'll just give us a rundown of what a few, the most common ones are, and we'll move along to what we have for today. You might have heard the word ESG, right? ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance, and it's a framework for measuring and reporting how a company performs against sustainability criteria. Right, a lot of countries now are making sustainability disclosures mandatory. I take Nigeria for example. Nigeria, where I stay, by 2028, between 2028 and 2030, it's going to become mandatory that sustainability disclosure are going to become mandatory for not just the larger companies, but for SMEs as well. And other African countries like South Africa, Egypt, Kenya, they're also making sustainability disclosures compulsory. And this means that whether now or later, and not just in Africa, in Europe, there are laws that you have to, sustainability disclosure are like mandatory. You can't, escape from them. You can't run away from them. And even as an African business or an organization that has ties, in the European countries, you have to do sustainability reporting, right? So even if in an African setting is not yet compulsory, countries are like catching up, right? So as a business analyst, it is a good advantage for you to be ahead of the curve, right? Understand how to integrate sustainability thinking into your process analysis, your requirements thinking in a way that we're not saying, okay, we are leaving our system, we are leaving maybe our current role. We are simply applying sustainability lens to whatever it is that we are doing across the different skills that we have. Now, another example is what we call circular economy. This is just simply telling us, rethinking how products are being designed or used and recovered. So instead of, a product is being made, maybe we take resources, they are being made, and when the user is done, he trashes them up or disposes them. Circular economy says, why can't we find a way, to reinvent this, to make it usable even after a user has been done with it. So the circular economy goes with the frameworks of design, make, use, return, transform, and reuse. And in our work today, we hear most people say, like, I know of someone that uses used jeans, yeah, used jeans. Instead of trashing them, now they collect them and they turn it into something else like bags. That's part of the circular economy, right? Then our UN SDGs, we all know our SDGs, right? Is also under the sustainability landscape. Our 17 global goals covering climate, poverty, equality, inclusion, and a lot of organizations are already aligning their strategy to specific SDGs. Now I move to, but I've heard of net zero carbon accounting. That just tells us about, how we measure or reduce greenhouse gas emissions, or we call GHG, right? With the goal of removing as much carbon as you emit, right? Then frameworks like, GRI, the ISSB, the CSRD, there are a lot of them. There are a lot of them. Then CSR, the almighty CSR, that has been around for a very long time, right? Corporate social responsibility. The original concept being that businesses have duties beyond profit. We can move to the next slide. So in all of this, these are, I call them different aspects of sustainability, which is very broad. But our focus for today is not to not to understand all the frameworks, or become sustainability experts. It is for us to recognize that the skills that you have as a BA are exactly the skills that sustainability needs to work. When you ask questions like who is affected, you're trying to capture all the users, as much users as possible. That's sustainability thinking. When you map waste in a process, when you say how can we reduce waste, energy waste in this process? How can we reduce any form of waste, human waste in this process? That's sustainability thinking. When you ask what happens downstream, the supply chain, what happens? That's sustainability thinking, and that is something that we as a BU we already do. We ask questions, right? We meet with stakeholders. You know, we are involved in process optimization. We map processes. Now we can move to the next slide. We map processes. That is what we do, right? And as a BA, you have an advantage, like I said. We are uniquely positioned to champion sustainability because our role is built on exactly what sustainability thinking requires. We ask the reason why things exist, right? Sustainability asks why do we make decisions the way we do, and what happens if we don't change them, right? If we don't begin to use let's say things like renewable energy, what will happen to the world? Like, how will it keep affecting the climate, right? We map downstream effects. We don't just focus on, okay, just the business and its profit. We ask, okay, how does this decision affect people? How does it affect the environment? How does it affect, future systems? We bridge strategy and execution. Like I always say, that BAs are the executionists. We ensure things are being done the way they should be, right? And this is one problem that we have seen in a lot of society, what I call it commitment, right? People say this thing, people say one thing and they're doing the other thing. There's nobody to translate that sustainability goal or that sustainability commitment into things that or ways that the organization actually runs, right? And that is the gap that we as BAs are fit to close. And as a BA, we are the best and better position, right, to speak to stakeholders about sustainability. It's not just about it's not about showing them, not just about telling them that we have to be sustainable, we have to do things better. We prove it to them that we prove to them and show them how certain decisions, reduce costs, improve efficiency, and avoid future issues. If you as a BA, when you're mapping your process, you you take note of processes that are we like call it no longer useful, processes that waste energy and therefore add more costs to the company. When you suggest better ways to address the situation, when you suggest better ways that help reduce energy waste, you find that at the end of the day, the company is even making, you know, saving some money on energy costs, right? So we see that sustainability is not something like this different from what you already do as a BA. It is part of what you do, but you just have to know. Let me use the word think outside the box and say, how can I be sure that whatever it is that we are doing, We're not just favoring, a minute set of people. We are carrying everybody along. We are we are considering our environment. We are considering our employees. We are considering our suppliers. Right? That's exactly what today is about. Right? You can move to the next slide. So we move on to the next section where I will show you practically where your BA skills meet sustainability. So I won't be talking about all the skills because of limited time that we have. So I will just dwell on a few of them. Now, under requirement elicitation, as a BA, we already identify what stakeholder needs, right? Both the functional, the technical, whatever it is that like stakeholder needs. Now, sustainability comes in and expands who the stakeholders are and what success looks like to include long-term impact, right? Sustainability thinking asks the question of who are we missing out? Not downstream in the supply chain, who are we missing out that will be affected by this decision that we want to make on this project, right? Who are we missing out? If you're thinking of, if you are thinking of building like a customer facing web app, are we putting into consideration people that might have issues with their sites, right? Are we thinking about everybody? Are we putting into consideration the 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 web hosters, people that where our site to be hosted, if they are, using, like for instance, renewable energy, things that support our sustainability goals or our sustainability commitment. What happens to this solution, after 5 years? What does the end of life look like? Are the resources or efficiency gains beyond just time and money? Are we considering our staff? Are we considering those that are going to be working on this project to ensure that they're not being exploited? Does this create any form of dependency on the suppliers or the system that we need to pay, attention to? Adding, just these simple questions, just switches up the game, right? You are moving from basic to a BA that understands that businesses have to think about long-term impact, not just focusing on how to make gains for themselves. They need to consider their environment. They need to consider the people that work with them, right? So you can move to the next slide, please.
Did I skip one?
That'll be, yes.
There we go.
Thank you. Then on that process analysis, like I mentioned earlier, we already, identify bottlenecks and handoffs that add no value. So sustainability adds, what are we expanding beyond, time and cost, to include things like, material, energy, human waste. You begin to ask questions like, in this process, what steps are consuming energy that we didn't even need to consume, right? That's costing us a lot of money. What physical outputs could be eliminated? What improvements can be made? What manual steps can we remove that are draining our human capacity unnecessarily? What poor decisions are we making? All of these expands our BA thinking, and on your next project, if you can just add a column that you know explains or brings to light sustainability impact, just little, in your next project, when you ask just these simple questions, they can become the life changers, right? Because at the end of the day, When you reduce your energy consumption, you definitely save up on some money, right? When the people that work for you, they are happy, they're not being exploited, you get better inputs from them, right? So this is one way that we can, apply BA thinking in our process analysis. We can move to the next slide. Now, with stakeholder management, right? We already ask questions, who is affected, we manage expectations, we keep the communication flowing, like I've mentioned. Sustainability, the sustainability angle says, let's widen who are stakeholders. Like, let's not take out anybody. Begin to ask questions like our future users, people that are not even here right now, you know, people who will inherit the systems that we are building, our supply chain workers, are we considering them in our conversations? The communities where our operations will be done. What are the ripple effects? How will our how will the how will our processes, how will our functions affect these people? But how will it affect our environment, the environment that our business operating, right? So you can always ask, beyond the people that we have talked about, who else are you missing? Beyond the people that we have talked about, who else are we missing? That's when we now begin to talk about the inclusion. We're not, relegating anybody to on the side. We are trying to capture as much stakeholder as possible, such that we understand their needs and we're able to meet them where they are. You can go to the next slide, please. Now, documentation. As we all know, as BAs, right? We write requirements, we keep records, we build all these traits, write acceptance criteria. Now, sustainability says we use this as an accountability tool, not just for clarity's sake, but for accountability. So that, because sustainability claims must be provable, traceable, and verifiable, right? So, in applying the sustainability lens, we can include sustainability KPIs in our acceptance criteria, in our user stories, right? How in during our case study, we'll see a few user stories that integrate sustainability into the BA process, right? We design audit trails that less sustainability claims be verified. A company says we are reducing our carbon footprint, or we have reduced our carbon footprint. Where's the evidence? Right? So audit shows that let our sustainability claims be verified, not just stated, right? When optimizing systems, we ask questions like we ask if this new system, enables better sustainability tracking and build traceability into requirements. Who decides what? Who decided what? What are the trade-offs? Right? One of the biggest sustainability challenge in the world right now is what is greenwashing. When people say one thing and they're doing another thing, because there is no accountability, right? So as a BE on your project, you ensure that there is that, we can prove what has been done. On your project, it can be proven. There's data to back up what you're saying. There are data to prove or verify anything that you have stated, be it on a sustainability report or whatever report it is you're using it on. So a BA who builds proper documentation directly solves this problem. We can move to the next slide. Now, quickly talk about the last one for today, which is governance. We already mapped stakeholders, define decision rights, who owns what, who does what, right? We escalate risks when things are going wrong. We quickly state that out, right? To ensure that the right people are involved in the right decisions at the right time, to ensure that our projects are going as planned, right? So basically, sustainability says that governance isn't just about process efficiency. It determines who bears the cost of unsustainable decisions. That's what we call owning an outcome, right? Owning an outcome, and who has a voice in preventing this thing from going wrong. Who owns Who owns this thing? Who owns this goal? Who owns this vision, right? So you can ask whose interests are being represented in approval workflows, be it regulators, the communities that your organization functions in, be it whether it's a sustainability lead or whatever, whoever it is, based on the scenario, right? You flag when sustainability trade-offs are being made without the right decision makers in the room. Now, ensure sustainability commitments made at management or strategy level are reflected in project governance structures, and build feedback loops and review checkpoints that assess sustainability impact and not just scope and budget, right? To ensure that things are being done in the right order. So that when something is going wrong, we can easily retrace our steps to say, okay, this is where it broke down. This is how we can this is where we can pick up from. This is how we can make it what? This is how we can make it better. Because bad sustainability outcomes do not happen by accident. They happen when the wrong people are making the wrong decisions, or the right people are not in the room. And it helps to ensure that that gap does not happen. So let's move to the next section. That will be our case study. We'll just quickly go through that before we move along. All right, thank you. So I call this hospital or healthcare provider Health Now, right? The mid-sized healthcare provider. Now, this case study is just to give us like a brief explanation on how we can apply any of these skills I've mentioned above on as a B, how we can apply our BA skills, in practice. Okay, so this company is building a new public facing website, just like we had during the SDLC. I was part of the group that worked on the insurance website. So let's assume we are doing something like that, right? So, and the business case for this is just to redesign the site because I want to improve user experience, increase appointment booking, and just generally reflect a modern brand identity. And a BA was brought in to make this. And a BA was brought in to make this happen. Now, these are how our skills as a BA using sustainability lens can make this happen. Next slide, please. Okay, thank you. So now, requirement elicitation. As a BA, probably talk to the marketing team, doctors, the IT, and maybe probably a few users, in the organization to say, okay, what does this website need to do, right? And maybe probably we focus on features like appointment booking, online booking, does it load perfectly on the phone, all of that. When you begin to ask questions like who will use this website that you have not yet considered, probably patients that are not really tech savvy, right? People in areas with poor internet connections. When you begin to consider all of these persons, now we are approaching business analysis using the sustainability lens, right? When you ask question like when this website shuts down, or if you have to replace it, what happens to all the data? What happens to all our digital file? Is there a plan? Now you are bringing sustainability into the discussion, right? Because you're not just thinking of how do we just get over with this now and we're done with it. You're considering how this affects things and decisions in the future, right? If you say, okay, we ask question like, if we are relying on a third party company to help us run this site, how do we know that they handle patient data appropriately? How do they know they're not, stealing our patient data? Are they putting data privacy into consideration? Right? When you begin to ask this kind of question, now as a BA, you are applying sustainability lens, right? You can see that we're not moving out of we're not doing something entirely different. We're not considering sustainability as something that with as a, like an afterthought. You are integrating it into the business process, right? When we ask questions like, are we only measuring success by how many bookings increase, or ask better questions that don't just reveal surface level answers. At that point, you are integrating sustainability into your decision, integrating sustainability thinking into the processes that result to different outcomes, right? So the next slide, please. Okay, stakeholder management, like I always said, you list the key people involved in the project, probably the sponsors, the marketing team, the IT staffs, the doctors, patients. You keep everyone that needs to be informed, those that need to be managed. Just make sure that decisions get approved, right? But when you begin to ask questions like, who will use this website after we are finished building, and do they have a say in how this is designed? Can we reach out to them? Right? Now that's sustainability, that's BA thinking through through a sustainability lens. Right? When we begin to ask questions like, are the patients involved, in testing and research? Are the patients involved in testing and research actual actually represent, or are we just hearing from people that are comfortable using technology? Are we also considering people that might not be so tech savvy? Right? What are we considering patients in rural areas, deserved areas? Are their needs met? Are we putting their needs into consideration? Now that's sustainability thinking or sustainability lens speaking, right? When we say who are the companies providing the technology that we are using, do they do they have ethical practices? Right now, you are thinking like you are using the sustainability lens as a BA. When you ask questions like, the company providing the technology for this website, are their working conditions and our practices aligned with our values, with our sustainability commitments? Now that's BA thinking, using the sustainability lens. Now you can go to the next slide, please. So in process analysis, I've mentioned this earlier, we as BAs, I'm very sure we understand the assist and to be, situation, right? We come into an organization and say, okay, how are things be done? How can we make things, better? Look, regularly you might just come and say, okay, let's how was the site running before? Find steps that where are things breaking down? How are things going slowly? Or what was confusing the users? And I might probably just recommend a cleaner, faster process, that reduces number of calls, right? But the moment you begin to ask, is this new website design, heavier than it needs to be? Are we considering the energy waste that this, necessary things, that we are unnecessary features are going to cause? Unnecessary features. Are we material waste? Are we building pages or no features that nobody is going to use? When we begin to ask these questions, right? That's sustainability lens. Say after the redesign, we staff still spend a lot of time, helping patients who cannot figure out the site, probably because they have never used, they're not even aware of how to use the app. Now that's sustainability thinking, right? And so are we guessing what patients want instead of asking them, which will lead to maybe rework after later on. When we begin to ask questions like this, that helps us to figure out, energy waste, material waste, people waste, decision waste. Now we are applying sustainability lens to our skills as a BA. So I like to say sustainability through the lens of a BA is just, expanding our scope just a little more, so that we are also embedding right? So the next slide, please. Okay, thank you. So the last one on the list, documentation, and I'd like to just dwell a little bit more on user stories. These are one of the things that we, write or document as BAs, right? Instead of just writing regular user stories for typical patients, I'm focusing on speed, ease of use, completing a booking and all that. We can just switch it up a little. We can begin to write user stories like, as a data officer, I want all patient information collected on the website to be stored with companies that have clear and ethical data policies. You see where sustainability thinking is coming in now, right? So that our patients are not put at risk by how their data is handled. Now, the sustainability goal that this supports is data ethics and responsible governance. So we see that instead of just asking basic questions, writing acceptance criteria that has to do with just speed, ease of use, we go a notch higher. We are putting the user into consideration. We are saying, are we thinking about their rights, as a user? Hope we're not just collecting their data. Hope they're aware of what we're using their information for, right? Another quick example will be, I know as a member of Health Now sustainability team, I want the website to be hosted by a provider that uses at least 80% renewable energy so that running our digital services does not contradict our environmental commitment. Right now, the sustainability goal that this supports is carbon footprint, and clean energy. Without this, just expands your user stories a notch higher, and this will definitely affect the kind of acceptance criteria that we definitely follow through. Right. So the next slide, please. So if you still think that probably this is not my job, I have no business with sustainability, right? It's always a good thing, to go a notch higher, expand a little beyond what you just do on a regular, right? Organizations pay attention or see people who go the extra mile, as really valuable, right? And if you think that, okay, probably my organization is not, we are not talking about sustainability yet, like I always say, it's coming, right? Across the globe, globally, sustainability disclosures and requirements are becoming mandatory. Right? And if in your organization you have never thought about that before, you have never talked about sustainability, how to make things better, you can be the first. Let me use that way. You can be the first on the list. You can be the first to take that initiative. The BAs that are already asking questions through the sustainability lens, they are invaluable. When your organization catches up, when your organization begins to see that, oh, these are now mandatory requirements, we need to integrate sustainability into how our business functions, day to day. And you have been keeping it in all the while and showing them how to do this, as the BA. You find out that you have become the go-to person. When regulation forces your company to do that, probably they're not doing it yet. You begin to find out that you're not playing catch up, right? You're not struggling to fit in because you're already doing the work all along, right? Or probably you're saying, no, that's the sustainability team's job. Especially the bigger organizations, right? They have dedicated sustainability or probably ESG teams, right? That write the commitments, they write the strategy, and all. You should understand that as a BA, your part of your job is to ensure that those goals and commitments, sustainability commitments, are integrated into how your business operates, right? And you as a BA are in a very good position, right, to integrate sustainability into your requirements and processes so that it doesn't just remain as a goal. So that your company or your organization is not saying something else and doing another thing, right? And if you think that you don't have enough, sustainability information to work with, that's the point of today's workshop, right? You don't need to be an expert. You just need to understand sustainability enough to apply it in your everyday tasks and your everyday job, and you are doing that already, right? You are doing that already, and you are doing a great job. Just like all the explanations or examples I've given, just take that question a notch higher. you know Ask the question, how is this process consuming a lot more energy than required? How can we reduce that, right? How are we sure that whatever this decision we want to make, how are we sure that is not affecting or impacting our supply chain negatively? No, those are just the little things that when we embed it into how we do our daily tasks, it makes a lot of difference. Right, next slide, please.
I'm sorry, I went the wrong way. Here you go.
Okay, thank you. It's fine, thank you. So I wanted to make a commitment tonight that in my next requirement session or whatever BSK you're going to be using, I am going to ask one question I've never asked before, right? One question I've never asked before. It might be as simple as, how much energy will this process consume? How much energy will this process consume? Can we make the process better? Start there. That is sustainability in practice. That is sustainability in practice. And I'm hoping that that we are going to take this commitment very seriously, right? So the next slide, please. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank
Gachi. Do I have any questions from the audience? Ugochi, I saw the other day that I don't know where it is, but someone said that they had energy restrictions. They were being told to not leave their house, not go any travel that wasn't required, and I'm like, this is lining up with exactly what they were saying. Thank you for bringing this to us.
You're welcome.
Ugochi,
You're welcome.
how did you get involved with this way of thinking?
How do I put it? Yeah, I'm very curious. I'm a very, very curious person. So, and when you're keeping up with the news and all of that, you understand where the world is going. Let me use the word, where the world is going to, right? And especially in Nigeria, sustainability knowledge is not so common. We're just picking up, right? And last year, the government said we are making it mandatory, and we are giving you guys some time, to catch up. And that was my first contact, and I'm like, this is something worth putting my time and attention to, and we are
Hey.
here. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for participating in this. Um, Ugachi, thank you for bringing this to us. It's something that some of us have never thought of, but we know that some of the projects that we're working on potentially are going to be graded on this, and regulations are going to come into play that we hadn't anticipated before. So it's excellent that you brought it to us now so we can take it back to our workplaces and say, hey, here's something maybe we need to be adding to every single project. And if it doesn't
Yeah,
apply, it doesn't apply. But if you don't ask the question, you don't know, right?
you never know. Yes.
Right, right. Okay, excellent. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's give Ugachi a round of applause. Thank you so much, Ugachi, for participating and contributing to making our community and participants better. We look forward
Thank
to
you.
next week. You know what we have next week. It's worth every piece of attendance. And I encourage you, guys, if y'all are getting value out of these, please tell other people. We can only benefit people who attend, and if they never hear about it, they don't attend. So tell people about the good that we're doing here. We're here every single Thursday night all throughout the year until Thanksgiving, and then we take a few weeks off. But we want to help more people. So let people know what we're doing, show them our website, and we will continue to move forward. Ugachi, one more time, thank you so much. We'll see y'all
Thank
later.
you.
Bye,
All right.
guys.
Bye.